Kwesipratt aba abonten e papa eye Kwesipratt aba abonten bie nsem mu akyere ennioma ekoso ewo eye MPP amayuku mu ono amum esa ekire mu se MPP empenimfuo bi aba abonten a omo nsem omo chemu ina nsem ya ekoso eyade a omo enim ho hwe a omo enim nia ekoso asankofo no ede abufuo akaka bi ede akyere eye na nado enya asem ketewa na we na Kwesipratt ejina asosa kan asem we se ye kan se mre bi ye papa Kennedy akompre ko Japan eba abonten ebe kan say the MPP is looting Ghana as if there's no tomorrow. Yes, ebe kan sa asem na ye papa Kennedy e kan ya Kwesipratt akire nsem nim na wabiebie nneoma mu na wasa biebie nneoma so asa akire ye nia ekoso pote ewo oye MPP amayoko o sa so akire nia enkofo bi omo party ni mu ania na nado eye no nyamia nim rokroni omo ani enje ho ba kokora sei abusua yensemra ne die kwanso ha eye be media gh ende edika wa netwe channel so a sada nse ne die kwanso be so be jemre no ahwe videos ni bi no saba modi subscribe e de amaye abusua yentie Kwesipratt ne nsem a ode abatudu a o kire mu se ne ekoso no ya de MPP mpenifo ne bi ani enje ho ena nia ekoso nso ebi mu nso enim nia ekoso no omo enim ho hwe ya omo aba abonten a omo de omo nsem ade aba abatudu a ebi mu atoto ade amane the sitting president Nana Break-Akuffo Addø enya asem keto awe na Kwesipratt so esa ekire mu anase oka ne nsem ekọ ani mu se sie sa nneoma we yina na nado pese osesa ni yina de ema ono na busuafo na se kofukuo bi pese omo fa sa nneoma we yina no sa nneoma we omo de ekọ hin because sa nneoma we eye Ghana ajapade Ghana enneoma wo sesa wo de ekọ hin ankasa abusua yentie ye papa yi emra sesi a medase.
Here we have a former Deputy Minister of Finance and Chairperson of the Finance Committee of Parliament making the claim that the country's economy has been run like a Ponzi scheme. That's a significant statement. He is still a member of Parliament of the New Patriotic Party. But you see, he's not the only one. We have a former Deputy General Secretary, also of the New Patriotic Party, who only this week came up and said that the people of Ghana should forgive the government, the NPP government. Forgive the NPP government for what? And listen to what he says. He said many things, but listen to what he says. I'm a very principled and candid person. To a certain extent, I also agree with Kwesipratt on the issues he has raised. If you go in for a loan and dig a hole or invest it in a national cathedral project, it is not a profitable venture. We don't need to use taxpayers' money to build a national cathedral. And he claimed that he was one of the people in the party who opposed the project. And he also claims that because of this stand that he took, he was denied appointments. Something is happening in the New Patriotic Party. Today, as we speak in this studio, Kwabena Japan, former General Secretary of the party, is following Dr. Bawumia around the country, urging people to vote for Dr. Bawumia. But go back a few months ago, when he was involved in the contest for the presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party. He gave testimony about how democracy, internal party democracy, was completely destroyed. How leaders of the party, members of the party, were hindered because of what they thought, because of what they stood for, This is Kwabena Agyapong, who strangely today is campaigning for the very people he criticized, has completely forgotten what he said only a few months ago. But he has given us an indication of what is happening in the new patriotic party. You understand? Now, listen to Dr. Nyahota Makro, a founding member of the party, and what he says about the party. Now, he claims that internal democracy in the party has been completely destroyed, that the party has been hijacked by a small group of persons with loyalty not to principle but to an individual. It doesn't end there. Listen, the majority of members of parliament of the New Patriotic Party went public and told us that the economy was being mismanaged by the then finance minister and demanded that he should be removed from office. Something is happening in the New Patriotic Party. Everywhere you turn, listen to them. Look, Break-Akuffo Addø, Japan. He said that members of the party were looting the national coffers as if there's no tomorrow. And there's more. Now, if these people, prominent members of the party, are telling us that there's no internal democracy in the party, one, they are telling us that decisions about national governance and so on today are being made by a cabal. That is their claim. Now, how would you entrust the whole country to this so-called cabal, which is intent on national destruction? And I'm not the one saying it. I am not the one saying it. Why would you do that? So I think it is important for all of us to take note of what is happening within the New Patriotic Party. What people in the New Patriotic Party are telling us. Only a couple of weeks ago, just before the launch of the outdooring of the vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Martin Opoku Prempeh, something very significant happened. The newspapers published a photograph of the current flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Napo, and Wuntumi, Chairman Wuntumi of Kumasi, and said that the flag bearer had resolved differences between them. But nobody told us what the differences were. What were the differences? Was it about national policy? Was it personal? And how come that those differences were so important and crucial that they had to be resolved before the outdooring of Napo in Kumasi? Something is happening in the New Patriotic Party. And all we have to do is to open our ears and listen well and do the proper analysis. Listen, Mr. Alan Martin, he was a cabinet minister, not an ordinary cabinet minister. Indeed, he was the Minister of Trade. He got so frustrated within the party that he's had to break away to create a new platform to contest for the presidency of this country. What pushed Mr. Alan Martin out of the New Patriotic Party? What pushed him out? He's speaking today. We should be listening to what he says. He was Minister for Trade and Industries. one of the flagship projects of this government was being implemented under his provision. One district, one factory. What happened to the one district, one factory project? Was he frustrated in the implementation of that project? What happened? So you see, it is important for us. Don't listen to NDC. Don't listen to CPP. Don't listen to anybody. Listen to the voices in the New Patriotic Party and do your correct analysis. And I cannot forget my very good friend, my very, very good friend, Mr. Albert Kandapa, when he spoke to the judiciary and made the point that if every time the judiciary scores in favor of the sitting government, there is a problem, and there will be a problem. What did he see? Why did he make such a public statement? I think it is important for us to listen to these people in government. Listen to them in government and do your proper assessment. You see, what Mr. Kwesipratt says is a huge statement. He's talking about a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme is essentially a 419 operation. And we have seen it here. You remember that just before the 2016 elections, there was a Ponzi scheme which broke out in this country. I think it was called DKM. You remember? Now, Mr. Kwesipratt is saying that that is how the national economy is being run. There have been several Ponzi schemes based on deceit, based on tricks and so on. But ultimately, the objective of every Ponzi scheme is to steal and destroy. And that's how he describes how this country's economy is being run. I'm frightened. And I think everybody should be frightened. His words are deep. His words are deep, and we need to reflect on those words. Now, he, former Deputy Finance Minister, not an ordinary person, not the Minister for Works and Housing, not the Minister for Information, Deputy Finance Minister is telling us that all that is done is that we borrow large amounts of money. We use part of the money we borrow, listen very carefully, to retire debts, the debts that we owe, and the rest, we use it, we spend it on projects which are not viable, which would not enable us to repay our debt. Is this not the path to complete national disaster? Because if you borrow, and you don't use what you have borrowed in order to stimulate production and productivity so that you can generate resources to repay your loan, but you use it simply to pay debts, you understand? Simply to pay debt and to chop the rest on non-viable projects, that's the surest path to catastrophe, to disaster. And no wonder today Ghana is bankrupt. We are completely bankrupt. We are spending 128% of total national revenue on debt servicing, debt repayment, and public sector emoluments. That's a complete disaster. And if we continue to head in this direction, petroleum prices will continue to increase. The price of bread will continue to increase. The price of cooking oil would increase. The price of gari would increase. The price of maize would increase. Life will become unbearable for our people. And this is the warning which is being sounded. We need to pay attention to this grave warning coming from no less a person than Mr. Kwesipratt. It is also significant that this man, this honorable member of parliament, refused an appointment in the last cabinet reshuffle. What has he seen? Why is he distancing himself? Because no matter what he says, whether it was an internal memo, external memo, or whatever, what he says is weighty and revealing. So I don't care whether he says it's an internal memo or not. He admits that he wrote what has been published. And what has been published is extremely alarming. My brother, lawyer Apia Dankwa,